You've been lied to about success. The idea that anyone can make it isn't entirely true. Only 2% of people truly succeed, and there's a reason for that. The other 98% aren't willing to hear what I'm about to tell you. But if you stay with me, for the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck in mediocrity, and how you can join that top 2%. Success isn't complicated. It's hard, but it's not complicated. The principles have been the same for generations, yet most people ignore them, hoping for shortcuts that don't exist. Today, we're diving deep into the tough truths about success that most people refuse to accept. These are the principles I've collected from decades of studying the most successful people in history, the brutal economics of discipline. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you hate. That's punishment, not discipline. True discipline is remembering what you want. It's the daily practice of choosing your long-term desires over your immediate comforts. The economics of discipline are simple but brutal. Pay a little every day in advance, or pay heavily with interest later. The 2% understand this fundamental equation. Think about the most successful person you know personally. What separates them from everyone else? It's rarely raw talent or luck. It's their ability to consistently do what others won't. They've mastered the economics of discipline. Discipline is like compound interest for your life. Every small action compounds over time. Every workout, every hour of focused work, every moment of delayed gratification creates returns that multiply exponentially. When you wake up early to read while others sleep, you're making a deposit. When you practice your craft while others watch TV, you're making a deposit. When you save and invest while others spend, you're making a deposit. These small deposits compound over time. That's where the separation happens. Consider this. If you read just 10 pages every day, that's about 3,650 pages per year, equivalent to about 12 books. In 5 years, that's 60 books. The average American reads less than 1 book per year. With this simple discipline, you've outpaced the average person by 60 times. Now imagine applying this same principle to your finances. If you save just $5 a day, the cost of a fancy coffee, and invest it at a modest 7% return, you'll have over $37,000 in 15 years. Most people can't imagine how such a small action can create such significant results, but the 2% understand the power of compound discipline. The same principle applies to skills. Take someone learning to play guitar. 15 minutes of deliberate practice every day might not seem significant. But over a year, that's 91 hours of practice. Over 5 years, that's 456 hours. A novice becomes intermediate, an intermediate becomes advanced, an advanced player becomes a master. The same principle applies to health. Walking just 20 minutes daily might not transform your body in a week, but over a year, that's 121 hours of movement and approximately 73,000 calories burned, equivalent to about 20 pounds of fat. Small disciplines create massive results over time. But here's the catch. The results aren't immediate. In our instant gratification world, most people give up before the compound effect kicks in. The 2% understand delayed gratification. They plant seeds today knowing the harvest comes later. Discipline isn't just about doing things. It's also about not doing things. It's saying no to the dessert, the distraction, the impulse purchase, the shortcut. These small moments of restraint also compound over time. The diseases you don't develop, the debt you don't accrue, the relationships you don't damage. These are the invisible rewards of discipline. The brutal economics of discipline reveal another truth. Our actions are always creating our future, whether we're conscious of it or not. Every action or inaction is a vote for the person you're becoming. The 2% cast their votes deliberately. Most people view discipline as restrictive, something that limits their freedom. The 2% understand that discipline is the path to true freedom. Financial discipline creates financial freedom. Health discipline creates physical freedom. Time discipline creates the freedom to pursue what matters most. There's a common misconception that successful people love the grind, that they enjoy the painful parts of discipline. This isn't necessarily true. They often dislike the same discomforts as everyone else. The difference is that they've trained themselves to act despite discomfort. They've developed the skill of doing what needs to be done regardless of how they feel. This skill, acting despite discomfort, might be the most valuable skill a person can develop. It's the foundation of every other achievement. Without it, potential remains just that, potential. The economics of discipline work in reverse, too. Every shortcut you take creates a debt you'll pay later with interest. Skip workouts consistently, and you'll pay with deteriorating health. Neglect relationships, and you'll pay with loneliness. Avoid difficult conversations, and you'll pay with festering problems. The 2% understand that discipline isn't just about gaining rewards. It's also about avoiding unnecessary suffering. Consider two people starting at the same point today. One commits to small daily disciplines, the other doesn't. In a month, the difference might be negligible. In a year, it becomes noticeable. In 5 years, they're living completely different lives. In 20 years, they might as well be different species. The gap created by consistent discipline becomes so vast it appears almost genetic. This principle works regardless of your starting point. No matter where you begin, consistent discipline will create progress. The poorest person who saves consistently will eventually have more than the wealthy person who spends recklessly. The overweight person who exercises consistently will eventually be healthier than the naturally slim person who neglects their health. What makes discipline particularly challenging is that we're constantly surrounded by temptations designed specifically to break it. Fast food, social media, streaming services, credit cards, these industries spend billions to override your discipline. They're engineered to target our psychological vulnerabilities. The 2% recognize these forces and design their environments accordingly. They make discipline easier by creating systems that remove temptation rather than relying solely on willpower. They delete apps that waste time. They don't keep junk food in the house. They automate their savings. They recognize that human willpower is limited and must be protected and strategically deployed. Most importantly, the 2% connect their daily disciplines to their deepest values and highest aspirations. They don't exercise because they should. They exercise because it aligns with their vision of themselves as vital, energetic people. They don't save money out of fear. They save because it aligns with their vision of financial independence. This connection between daily actions and core values fuels consistent discipline. The brutal economics of discipline aren't taught in schools. They're rarely discussed in families. Most people discover them through painful experience. If they discover them at all, the 2% seek out this wisdom early and apply it relentlessly. Remember, discipline isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Missing one workout, one savings deposit, or one day of practice isn't failure. The 2% know that getting back on track immediately is what matters. They focus on the trend line, not the data points. In the end, the economics of discipline reveal a profound truth. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. The 2% build systems of discipline that make success almost inevitable. They understand that what you do consistently becomes who you are permanently. The environment equation. Your environment is silently shaping your destiny. The 2% know this and carefully design their surroundings. Take a moment and look around you. The places you spend time, the information you consume, and most importantly, the 5 people you spend the most time with. These elements are creating your future. Most people dramatically underestimate the influence of their environment. They believe their choices are entirely their own, made through pure willpower and conscious decision. The 2% know better. They understand that up to 95% of our behavior runs on autopilot, triggered by environmental cues we barely notice. Your environment isn't just influencing your actions, it's programming your subconscious expectations about what's normal, what's possible, and what you deserve. It's setting the thermostat of your potential. If you're surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, and avoid responsibility, you'll gradually adopt those same patterns. Their limitations become your limitations. Their ceiling becomes your ceiling. But if you surround yourself with people who are growing, achieving, and pushing boundaries, their expansion becomes your new normal. Their achievements become your baseline. Look at health as an example. Studies show that your chance of becoming obese increases by 57% if you have a friend who becomes obese. The behaviors, expectations, and norms of your social circle literally shape your body. The same principle applies to your income, your ambitions, your beliefs about what's possible. This isn't about abandoning old friends. It's about being intentional about who influences your thinking and behavior. The 2% aren't just selective about what they do, they're even more selective about their environments and associations. The most successful people in any field create what psychologists call success environments, surroundings that make their desired behaviors almost automatic. These environments reduce the friction for positive actions and increase the friction for negative ones. When you change your environment, you change the stimulus that triggers your responses. New environments create new possibilities. The right environment makes success almost inevitable. The wrong environment makes it nearly impossible. Consider how casinos design their environments. Everything, the lighting, the sounds, the lack of clocks, the layout, is carefully crafted to encourage specific behaviors. They understand environmental design better than most people understand themselves. The 2% apply this same level of intentionality to their environments. They recognize that willpower is a limited resource that gets depleted throughout the day. Instead of relying solely on willpower, they design environments that naturally pull them toward their goals. Want to exercise more? The 2% place their workout clothes beside their bed and sleep in their gym clothes if necessary. Want to eat healthier? They remove junk food from their homes entirely. Want to be more productive? They create workspaces free from distractions and triggers of procrastination. The digital environment requires even more careful curation. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day, once every 10 minutes. Each check exposes them to environments designed by teams of engineers, whose sole purpose is to capture and monetize attention. The 2% recognize this battle and take control of their digital environments with the same intentionality as their physical ones. Beyond the physical and digital, the informational environment may be most important of all. What you read, watch, and listen to forms the raw material for your thinking. The 2% are highly selective about their information diet. They consume information that expands their thinking, challenges their assumptions, and aligns with their highest aspirations. Ask yourself, if your 5 closest friends all earned $50,000 a year, would it be easy or difficult for you to earn $250,000? Success leaves clues, and those clues are found in the company you keep. The environment equation works because humans are fundamentally mimetic creatures. We learn through imitation. We absorb the attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of those around us at a subconscious level. The 2% leverage this natural tendency by carefully choosing whom they imitate. High-performance environments share common characteristics. They normalize excellence, celebrate growth, permit failure as part of learning, and maintain high standards without shame or judgment. They make difficult things seem doable because others are doing them. Consider Olympic training centers. Athletes who train in these environments consistently outperform those with similar talent and work ethic who train in isolation. The environment itself becomes a performance enhancer. The same principle applies to Silicon Valley startups, elite, universities, and other hubs of excellence. What makes environmental influence particularly powerful is that it works 24/7, operating beneath conscious awareness. Your physical space is sending you messages about what's possible for you. Your social circle is setting norms you'll likely follow. Your information sources are framing how you see the world. All of this happens whether you're paying attention or not. The 2% also understand that environments trigger specific identities and behaviors. Walk into a library and you naturally become quieter. Enter a stadium and you become more expressive. Visit a cathedral and you become more reverent. Different environments activate different versions of ourselves. The successful deliberately place themselves in environments that activate their best selves. Changing environments often faces resistance, both internal and external. When you elevate your environment, Some relationships may become strained. People comfortable with the old you may resist the emerging you. The 2% anticipate this resistance and develop strategies to navigate it compassionately but firmly. One powerful environmental strategy is finding a positive deviance group. People who have succeeded in achieving what you want, despite facing similar constraints. These groups provide both practical strategies and proof that success is possible under your specific circumstances. Another effective approach is creating smaller environments within constraining ones. If your workplace culture is negative, create a pocket of excellence within your team. If your community lacks ambition, build a mastermind group of like-minded strivers. The 2% don't use their broader environment as an excuse. They create micro-environments of success. The environment equation reveals an uncomfortable truth. Your current results largely reflect your current environment. If you want different results, you need different environments. This isn't about blaming your circumstances. It's about taking responsibility for changing them. Some environments are harder to change than others. Family dynamics, economic realities, and geographic limitations create real constraints. The 2% acknowledge these constraints while focusing on the environmental factors they can control, starting with their immediate physical space and daily influences. Perhaps most importantly, the 2% recognize that they themselves are part of other people's environments. They take responsibility for being a positive environmental force, elevating conversations, maintaining high standards, demonstrating what's possible, and encouraging others' growth. They understand that success environments are created through mutual elevation. The environment equation isn't just about personal success. It's about creating conditions where everyone can thrive. The truly successful design environments that pull everyone up, recognizing that sustainable success comes from contributing to ecosystems of excellence rather than competing in zero-sum games, the truth about time. We all have the same 24 hours, but the 2% use those hours dramatically differently than everyone else. Time is the great equalizer. The richest person on earth has exactly the same amount of time each day as the poorest. What separates them isn't the time they have, but how they use it. The average person spends 4.5 hours watching TV daily. They spend 2.5 hours on social media. They waste nearly 3 hours a day on activities they can't even remember. That's 10 hours gone, almost half their waking life, with nothing meaningful to show for it. The 2% see time differently. They understand that time is the only truly non-renewable resource. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. Every minute that passes is gone forever. This reality creates a sense of urgency that drives their decisions. This isn't about becoming a workaholic. The 2% don't work more hours. They work better hours. They understand the difference between activity and productivity. They measure their day not by how busy they were, but by how much they moved their most important goals forward. Success isn't about time management. It's about priority management. The 2% don't find time for important things. They schedule time for important things first, then let everything else fill the gaps. They start by identifying their big rocks, the crucial activities that drive their success, and place those in their calendar before anything else. Most people's calendars are filled with other people's priorities. They react to demands rather than proactively designing their days. The 2% protect their time fiercely. They say no to almost everything, which gives power to their rare yes. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything." The 2% understand this wisdom deeply. They recognize that every yes to something unimportant is a no to something vital. Think about this. Just 1 hour per day spent on your dream translates to 365 hours per year. That's over 9 40-hour work weeks dedicated to your most important goal. With that focused effort, how could you not make significant progress? But 1 hour of focused work requires eliminating distractions. It requires turning off notifications. It requires sometimes disappointing others. The 2% make these hard choices daily. They understand that focus is not just about doing one thing. It's about deliberately not doing 1,000 other things. The 2% also recognize the power of their biological prime time. those hours when their energy and focus are naturally at their peak. They schedule their most demanding and important work during these windows, saving less critical tasks for times when their energy naturally dips. Another key distinction: the 2% understand the difference between urgent and important. Urgent matters, demand immediate attention, but often contribute little to long-term goals. Important matters might not demand immediate attention, but contribute enormously to long-term success. Most people are tyrannized by the urgent. The 2% are guided by the important. The successful also understand the power of time blocking. Rather than switching constantly between different types of tasks, they group similar activities together, minimizing the mental cost of context switching. They might have blocks for creative work, communication, learning, and strategic thinking. Time is not just about quantity, it's about quality. 1 hour of deep, focused work produces more value than 4 hours of distracted effort. The 2% create conditions for deep work by eliminating interruptions, clarifying objectives before beginning, and being fully present with each task. They also understand that rest is productive. Strategic breaks, proper sleep, and genuine downtime aren't indulgences. They're investments in sustained performance. The 2% don't confuse motion with progress or hours worked with results achieved. Perhaps most importantly, the 2% align their use of time with their deepest values. They regularly ask themselves, is the way I'm spending my time a reflection of what matters most to me? This question serves as a compass, guiding them back to purposeful time use when they drift. The question isn't whether you have enough time. The question is whether you're willing to allocate your time according to your true priorities. When you say, I don't have time, what you're really saying is, this isn't a priority. The 2% are honest about their priorities and align their time accordingly. Time will pass whether you use it intentionally or not. 5 years from now, you will arrive at a destination. The only question is whether it's a destination of your choosing. The 2% ensure it is by making conscious decisions about their time today, the uncomfortable secret of responsibility. Here's a truth that makes most people uncomfortable. Everything in your life right now is your responsibility. Not your fault, but your responsibility. This distinction between fault and responsibility is crucial. Fault looks backward at who or what caused a situation. Responsibility looks forward at who will handle it. You didn't cause every circumstance in your life, but you alone are responsible for what happens next. The economy, your background, your circumstances, they all matter, but they don't determine your destiny. The 2% take complete ownership of their situations. They understand that while external factors influence their lives, their responses to those factors shape their futures. This level of responsibility is uncomfortable because it leaves no room for excuses. It's easier to blame the economy, the government, your upbringing, or other people for your circumstances. It's harder, but infinitely more powerful to say, this is my situation, and I'm responsible for changing it. When you blame external factors for your problems, you give away your power to change them. You become a victim of circumstances. The moment you take responsibility, even for circumstances you didn't create, you gain the power to transform them. You move from passenger to driver in your own life. Most people live in a state of learned helplessness. They've trained themselves to believe they have no control. The 2% know better. They understand that while they can't control everything that happens to them, they can control their responses. This mindset shift transforms how you experience challenges. The unsuccessful see problems as burdens unfairly placed upon them. The successful see problems as opportunities to demonstrate their capabilities and grow. Same circumstances, completely different experiences. Taking responsibility means asking different questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? The successful ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, who can help me? They ask, how can I solve this? Instead of, when will things get better? They ask, how can I make things better? This shift changes everything. Problems become opportunities. Obstacles become stepping stones. Rejections become redirections. The language of responsibility creates a different reality than the language of blame. The 2% understand that taking responsibility doesn't mean taking blame for everything or denying real obstacles. It doesn't mean pretending discrimination doesn't exist or that some people have genuine advantages others lack. It means acknowledging reality while refusing to let it define what's possible for you. Taking complete responsibility also changes how others respond to you. When you stop blaming and complaining, you become someone people want to help, partner with, and invest in. Your energy shifts from repelling opportunities to attracting them. This radical responsibility extends to all areas of life. Your health, your responsibility. Your relationships, your responsibility. Your career, your responsibility. Your finances, your responsibility. Your happiness, your responsibility. This doesn't mean you don't need or accept help. It means you recognize that ultimately, the buck stops with you. The mindset of responsibility also changes how you view success and failure. When you take full responsibility, you can't dismiss failures as bad luck or unfair treatment. You must extract the lesson. Equally, you can't attribute successes to good luck or favorable circumstances. You must acknowledge your role in creating positive outcomes. The 2% understand that freedom and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. The more responsibility you take, the more freedom you ultimately gain. Those who avoid responsibility remain perpetually constrained by circumstances they feel powerless to change. Taking responsibility also means giving up the right to complain. The 2% understand that complaining is the opposite of taking responsibility. It's a declaration of helplessness. Instead of complaining, they take action, even small action, in the direction of their goals. This mindset creates resilience. When the 2% face setbacks, they don't waste energy blaming or complaining. They immediately focus on solutions. This solution orientation allows them to bounce back faster and learn more from each experience. Perhaps most importantly, taking responsibility creates self-respect. There's dignity in owning your life completely, regardless of circumstances. The 2% sleep well at night knowing they're doing everything in their power to create the life they want, even when progress seems slow. The path of responsibility isn't easy, but it's the only path to extraordinary results. It requires looking in the mirror instead of pointing fingers. It requires choosing discomfort over blame. It requires giving up the emotional payoff of being right about why you can't succeed, but the rewards are worth it. Complete responsibility is the foundation of every other success principle. Without it, nothing else works. With it, everything becomes possible. The investment mindset. The unsuccessful spend money on products. The moderately successful spend money on experiences. The 2% invest in assets and themselves. This fundamental difference in allocation behavior explains much of the disparity in financial outcomes we observe in society. Financial literacy isn't taught in most schools, which is why most people remain financially illiterate. Without this critical knowledge, people make decisions based on social norms and marketing messages rather than sound financial principles. The 2% break this pattern by taking responsibility for their financial education. They understand the crucial difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out. This simple distinction guides their purchasing decisions and investment strategies. While the masses buy liabilities they mistakenly believe are assets, like cars that depreciate, or gadgets that become obsolete, the 2% focus on acquiring assets that generate income and appreciate over time. This investment mindset extends beyond financial assets. The 2% invest heavily in themselves, recognizing that their earning potential is directly tied to their knowledge, skills, and mindset. They view personal development not as an expense, but as the highest returning investment possible. While others complain about the price of books, courses, and mentorship, the 2% recognize these as investments, not expenses. They understand that what seems expensive today often proves cheap in retrospect when measured against the returns it generates. Consider the economics of education. The average cost of a college education can exceed $100,000, yet many graduates find themselves unprepared for the real world. Meanwhile, targeted self-education, books, courses, mentors, might cost a fraction of that amount while delivering greater practical value. The The 2% make these investment decisions based on potential return, not social convention. Time allocation reflects this investment mentality as well. While most people consume entertainment that yields no lasting benefit, the 2% invest their time in learning, creating, and building. They recognize that time, like money, can be invested rather than merely spent. The 2% are also strategic about the knowledge they pursue. They don't just learn for learning's sake, they apply what they learn, turning information into action. Knowledge without application is merely entertainment. The 2% transform knowledge into wisdom through application, and wisdom into wealth through consistent execution. This investment mindset creates a virtuous cycle. As they invest in themselves, their capacity to create value increases. As they create more value, they generate more resources to invest. As they acquire assets, those assets produce income that can be reinvested. This compounding effect accelerates over time, widening the gap between the 2% and everyone else. The investment mindset also embraces delayed gratification. While the masses focus on immediate consumption, the 2% are willing to sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term gains. They understand that investments often require time to mature and generate returns. This patience sets them apart in a culture obsessed with instant gratification. Perhaps most importantly, the 2% invest in their mindset itself. They recognize that limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns can sabotage even the best investment strategies. They actively work to cultivate empowering beliefs about money, success, and their own capabilities. They surround themselves with people who reinforce these beliefs and challenge them to grow. By consistently applying this investment mindset across all areas of life, financial, intellectual, social, and personal, the 2% create extraordinary results over time. They understand that greatness isn't achieved through a single dramatic action, but through thousands of small, wise investments compounded over a lifetime, the value creation imperative. Here's a fundamental law the 2% understand: your income is in direct proportion to the value you create. This principle governs advancement in any field or market. Most people focus on what they can get. The 2% focus on what they can give. This shift in orientation, from consumption to contribution, is transformative. The 2% look for ways to solve problems, meet needs, and create value for others. They understand that the marketplace rewards problem solvers, not problem complainers. The bigger the problems you solve, the more value you create. The more value you create, the greater your compensation. This principle applies whether you're an employee, entrepreneur, or freelancer. The question isn't how can I get a raise, but rather, how can I create more value for my company or customers? When you shift your focus from what you can get to what you can give, you activate a different set of behaviors. You become more creative, more resourceful, and more attentive to opportunities. You stop seeing obstacles and start seeing possibilities. You develop a service orientation that makes you indispensable in any organization or market. The 2% don't just work hard. They work smart by focusing their efforts on high-value activities. They understand the Pareto principle, that roughly 80% of results come from 20% of efforts, and apply it religiously. They don't confuse activity with accomplishment. They measure their efforts by results, not by time spent. In today's economy, value creation is increasingly disconnected from time input. The industrial age mentality of trading hours for dollars keeps many trapped in mediocrity. The 2% break this connection by creating systems, products, and services that create value even when they're not working. They leverage technology, intellectual, property, and other people's time, money, and resources to scale their value creation beyond what they could achieve alone. The 2% also understand that value is subjective and contextual. What's valuable in one market or time may not be in another. They stay attuned to evolving needs and preferences, constantly adapting their offerings to create maximum value. They develop empathy and market awareness that allow them to anticipate needs before they become obvious to everyone. Value creation requires continuous innovation. The 2% don't rest on past accomplishments. They recognize that yesterday's solutions quickly become today's commodities. They constantly ask, how can we do this better? They embrace a growth mindset that sees challenges as opportunities to develop new capabilities and create new value. The value creation mindset also transforms relationships. Instead of asking, "What can this person do for me?" the 2% ask, "What value can I bring to this relationship?" This abundance mentality leads to stronger networks, more opportunities, and deeper connections. It replaces transactional thinking with transformational thinking. The ultimate expression of the value creation imperative is developing a unique value proposition, something you can do better than virtually anyone else. The 2% invest in developing specialized knowledge and skills that make them rare and valuable. They find the intersection of their talents, passions, and market needs, creating a professional identity that's difficult to replicate or replace. By embracing the value creation imperative, the 2% ensure their own success while making significant contributions to others. They understand that true wealth comes not from taking, but from giving, not from exploitation, but from service. The persistence paradox: most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in a decade. The 2% understand this paradox and use it to their advantage. They set ambitious long-term goals while maintaining realistic expectations about short-term progress, creating a psychological framework that supports sustained effort. Success is rarely linear. It comes with valleys, plateaus, and occasional peaks. This uneven trajectory challenges our natural desire for consistent progress and immediate feedback. Most people quit during the valleys or plateaus just before the breakthrough would have occurred. They mistake a temporary lack of visible progress for permanent failure, abandoning potentially successful ventures prematurely. The 2% persist when others quit. They understand that timing matters, and what appears to be failure is often just a necessary step toward success. They recognize that many of life's most valuable achievements require passing through periods of apparent stagnation or even regression before the ultimate breakthrough occurs. Consider the overnight success stories you hear about. When you look closer, you'll find years of preparation, failed attempts, and learning experiences that preceded the sudden success. The 2% study these patterns and internalize the truth that success usually requires a longer timeline than most people are willing to commit to. The 2% develop extraordinary resilience. They expect obstacles. They anticipate resistance. They prepare for the dips. While others are surprised and discouraged by setbacks, the 2% see them as normal parts of the journey. This psychological preparation allows them to maintain momentum when others lose heart. This resilience isn't innate. It's cultivated through experience and mindset. The 2% train themselves to find lessons in every failure and to never make the same mistake twice. They develop what psychologists call growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. They also understand the crucial difference between persistence and stubbornness. Persistence means pursuing the same goal with different approaches. Stubbornness means pursuing the same goal with the same failed approach repeatedly. The 2% adjust their methods while keeping their goals constant. They maintain strategic flexibility within their tactical execution. The persistence paradox manifests in how the 2% approach skill acquisition as well. They understand that mastery in any domain typically follows a pattern of initial rapid progress, followed by a plateau where improvement seems to stall. This plateau of latent potential discourages most learners, but the 2% recognize it as a necessary phase of integration before the next breakthrough. The 2% leverage the compound effect of small, consistent actions over time. While others look for dramatic transformations and quick fixes, the 2% focus on systems and habits that produce incremental improvements daily. They understand that a 1% improvement each day compounds to nearly 38 times better over a year. In relationships and network building, the persistence paradox is equally powerful. The 2% invest in connections without expectation of immediate return. They understand that trust and reputation are built over years, not days, and that the most valuable relationships often show their worth long after they're formed. The persistence paradox extends to knowledge and wisdom as well. The 2% commit to lifelong learning, understanding that expertise isn't achieved through cramming, but through sustained engagement with a subject. They value depth over breadth and recognize that profound knowledge emerges from extended contemplation, not just information acquisition. Perhaps most importantly, the 2% apply the persistence paradox to their own personal development. They recognize that character transformation happens gradually through consistent choices and actions. They don't expect to overcome deeply ingrained habits or limitations overnight, but they never stop working on themselves. They measure progress over years, not days. By embracing the persistence paradox, the 2% achieve what others consider impossible. They build businesses, transform their health, develop rare skills, and create lasting impact, not through extraordinary talent, but through extraordinary persistence applied intelligently over time. The quality of your questions, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. The 2% ask better questions than everyone else. This single distinction shapes their perception, decisions, and ultimately their outcomes in profound ways. Most people ask disempowering questions. Why does this always happen to me? Who's to blame? How can I just get by? These questions assume helplessness, focus on problems rather than solutions, and frame situations in limiting ways. They direct mental energy toward justification and complaint rather than growth and possibility. The 2% ask empowering questions. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this challenge? What would this look like if it were easy? These questions assume agency, focus on opportunity, and open the mind to creative solutions. They direct mental energy toward action and improvement. Your brain is like a search engine. It finds answers to whatever questions you ask. Ask poor questions, get poor answers. Ask powerful questions, get powerful answers. This principle operates at both conscious and subconscious levels, shaping not only your deliberate thinking, but also your automatic perceptions and emotional responses. When faced with a problem, most people ask, how do I get out of this? The I's 2% ask, what's the opportunity in this? This simple shift changes everything. It transforms obstacles from things to be avoided into sources of growth and advantage. It changes the emotional response from fear to curiosity, from defensiveness to openness. Better questions lead to better thinking. Better thinking leads to better actions. Better actions lead to better results. This chain reaction begins with questioning skill, an ability the 2% deliberately develop throughout their lives. The 2% also ask questions that challenge their assumptions and expand their thinking. They're not afraid to question conventional wisdom or their own beliefs. They understand that many limitations exist only in their minds, created by asking the wrong questions. By reframing questions, they often discover that seeming impossibilities are actually well within reach. This questioning habit extends to their goals as well. Instead of asking, "Can I achieve this?" they ask, "How can I achieve this?" The first question invites doubt. The second invites solutions. This subtle difference in framing activates different mental processes. One triggers assessment, the other triggers planning. The 2% use questions strategically in different life domains. In business, they ask, how can we add more value, rather than how can we cut costs? In relationships, they ask, how can I better understand this person, rather than why don't they understand me? In personal development, they ask, who do I need to become, rather than what do I need to do? Their questions often have a longer time horizon than most. While others ask, what's the fastest way to results? The 2% ask, what's the most sustainable path to mastery? This patient perspective yields deeper insights and more durable advantages. The 2% also understand the power of questions in communication and leadership. They know that asking thoughtful questions demonstrates more intelligence than making declarative statements. They use questions to engage others, stimulate thinking, and lead people to their own discoveries rather than imposing conclusions. The most powerful questions the 2% ask are often the simplest. Why? Asked repeatedly to get to root causes. What? If? To explore possibilities outside conventional thinking. How might we? to frame challenges in a way that invites collaborative problem solving. By developing the art of asking better questions, the 2% access insights and opportunities invisible to others. They transform their mental landscape from one of limitations to one of possibilities. They replace anxiety with curiosity, complaints with inquiry, and confusion with clarity, all through the consistent practice of quality questioning. The momentum principle success follows a predictable pattern that few recognize. It's slow, then sudden. Most people quit during the slow phase, never experiencing the sudden breakthrough. The 2% understand the physics of success. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects in motion tend to stay in motion. The hardest part of any journey is building initial momentum. Starting a new business, learning a new skill, changing a habit, the beginning is always the most difficult. The 2% push through this initial resistance, knowing that momentum builds upon itself. Once you've made progress, each additional step becomes easier than the last. Success breeds success. Confidence builds upon confidence. Skills compound upon skills. This principle explains why the rich often get richer. It's not just about money, it's about momentum. The successful have systems, habits, relationships, and mindsets that generate ongoing momentum. The 2% create daily practices that build and sustain momentum. They understand that it's better to do something small every day than something big once a week. Consistency creates momentum more effectively than intensity. They also protect their momentum fiercely. They know that stopping completely requires starting over, which is far more difficult than maintaining consistent progress, even if that progress is small. The courage to be different. Here's perhaps the most important truth. To achieve what the 98% don't, you must be willing to do what the 98% won't. The path to exceptional results is never crowded. By definition, exceptional means the exception, not the rule, not the norm, not the average. The 2% make peace with being misunderstood. They accept that their choices may seem strange to others. They embrace the discomfort of standing out. When everyone else is seeking security, the 2% pursue growth. When others follow the herd, the 2% chart their own course. When the majority seek comfort, the 2% embrace challenge. This courage is not about being different for difference's sake. It's about being true to your vision even when that vision isn't popular or immediately validated by others. The 2% don't need constant approval. They're willing to endure criticism, skepticism, and even ridicule on the path to their goals. They understand that the opinions that matter most are those of the people who have achieved what they aim to achieve. This courage also manifests as making difficult decisions that others avoid. Ending toxic relationships, leaving comfortable jobs for uncertain opportunities, investing when others are fearful, and being conservative when others are greedy. These decisions require courage that most people lack. The greatest risk isn't taking a chance on your dreams. It's accepting a life of mediocrity because you were afraid to be different. You've heard these principles before. They're not new. They're not secret. But knowing isn't enough. It's the application that separates the 2% from everyone else. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll work the principles. Success leaves clues, but you must follow them consistently, day after day, year after year. The 2% aren't smarter, more talented, or luckier than the rest. They simply make different choices that align with these timeless principles. So, which path will you choose? Will you remain with the comfortable 98%, or will you join the uncomfortable but ultimately fulfilled 2%? The choice, as it has always been, is yours.